Tell me about yourself, or please introduce yourself. This one question is one that a lot of people dread, but it is inevitable, especially when you're talking about job interviews, in church, at work, at meetings, online meetings, or physical meetings. You may not be able to avoid this kind of questions. And even at informal settings such as get-together, hangouts, you may not be able to avoid this question. So why not get over that fear by learning how to perfectly answer it? Now, this is what we're going to be doing in today's video. So if you're interested, then you definitely want to keep on watching. Hi, my name is Omobolanle Adeshoyi. Welcome to Fluently Speaking with Bola. This is where we learn to speak and write English language better. And today we will be focusing on self-introduction. Now, the interesting thing about today's video is that you would be learning some things you never knew about me, okay? And it promises to be fun all the way. So let's get right into it. Now, I'm going to be taking you through about 9 components of a pre-written self-introduction. The very first one is greeting. Now, at any gathering, job interview, or any formal or informal setting where you're asked to introduce yourself, you want to start by showing courtesy by greeting. Now, in a formal setting, the greeting would sound something like good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Now, good night is usually used as a send-off when you're saying goodbye. It's a form of saying goodbye, so you usually would not need to say good night. But most times in the evening, you say good evening. And then you could also say hello. Hello can be used in both formal and informal settings. Now, in an informal setting, your greeting will go something like hi, hiya, yo, what's up, what's good. So depending on what setting you find yourself, there is no straitjacket rule. Your setting will determine what kind of greeting you want to give. But you don't want to find yourself in a formal setting or at a job interview and you're greeting your interviewer saying hi or hiya, what's up, what's good. Be sure you have already lost that job even before the interview. Well, depending on the kind of job, I know in some settings like in the media or in the entertainment industry, if you're being interviewed, so just understand your setting before you prepare your pre-written self-introduction. Now, the next item would be your name. My name is Omobolanle Adeshoyi. Now, notice that it is my name is. I know some people say my names are, and I'm wondering, you're just one person, so it is incorrect to say my names are. Please simply say my name is, okay? You could also say this is Omobolanle Adeshoyi, especially if you're in a phone conversation or on an online platform. Maybe you're having a meeting or a conversation on an online platform. You could say this is, or you could say I am Omobolanle Adeshoyi, or Omobolanle Adeshoyi. So depending on which one works for you, just ensure that you use the right one for the right setting. The next is your location. I grew up in Lagos State, but I now reside in Ibadan, Nigeria. Remember to include your nationality, especially if you're speaking to an international audience, say on an online platform, Zoom, Skype, or whatever it is. Next, your position and company. For instance, I work as a broadcaster at Impact Africa Television and Impact Business Radio, or simply I work as a broadcaster. Next is your qualification. Now, this is particularly important, especially at job interviews. If you were at a hangout or at an online meeting or at a religious gathering like church, you may not necessarily have to talk about your qualification, but at a job interview, be sure that your interviewer wants to know what qualifications you have. Yes, it's written on your CV, but they also expect you to mention it as a way of introduction. My qualification would sound something like, I have a BA in Fisheries from the University of Ado-Ekiti, Nigeria. If you're still a student, you could say, I'm an economics student at the University of Lagos, Nigeria. Now, if you're currently taking a course or you've just completed a course, this is a good time to chip that in because you're also in a way selling yourself, especially if it is relevant to the job you're applying for. You want to mention that course. I'm currently taking a course on PowerPoint presentation. Notice that you take a course in a theoretical subject while you take a course on a practical subject. So if it was a theoretical subject you just finished a course on, it would sound like, I just completed a 3-month course in mathematics. But for a practical course, I'm currently undergoing a training on bead making because it is practical. Or I'm currently taking a course on graphic design. So you use in if it is a theoretical training, and then you use on for a practical training. Please do not mix it up. Oops, I think it's time for a breather. Let's take a breather. We'll be right back to look at the remaining components of a good self-introduction. Welcome back. Okay, that was refreshing. Now let's talk about the next nugget. Next is your experience. Remember that most times self-introductions are about you selling yourself. Why should I employ you? Why were you invited to this meeting? Why do we need to know you? It is most times about selling yourself. So you don't want to miss that opportunity to sell yourself because you don't know who might be listening, who might just bring you that big, banging, jaw-breaking opportunity that you need. So when we talk about experience, I have over 7 years experience in broadcasting, or I've worked as a banker for over 5 years. Next is your family background. So they would like to know just a little, you don't have to go too deep, just a little idea of what kind of family you're from. I'm from a family of 6, or I'm the first of 4 siblings. Saying that you're from a family of 6 means you're talking about your father, your mother, and maybe 4 children, and that includes you. Now, hobby. You have to be careful when it comes to hobbies. If you want to apply in a very formal setting, you don't want to state your hobby as singing, dancing, and stuff like that. You want to state more serious hobbies like reading, writing, meeting people, traveling. Those are hobbies that are fun but are also not unserious. Because if you put a hobby like I love to sing or I love to dance, it may not be relevant to that kind of job. So think about it very well. Be sure that your hobbies are not what would make you lose the job. But for a very informal setting or settings like church, online meetings, depending on the kind of online meetings and the caliber of people you have there, you can state your hobbies like singing, dancing, playing, and also swimming is a good hobby that can apply to both the formal and informal setting. So you want to think about your hobby and want to think about the audience you're communicating with before you state your hobbies. Next is your age. Now this is not really necessary except you're asked. Then you could talk about a fun fact. Now this is not really important, especially when you're at a job interview. No one really wants to ask you a fun fact about you. It also depends on the setting because job interviews have really evolved these days, especially with the social media and with the way things are going now with technology. But when it comes to a social gathering, when it comes to a get together in church, at work, at school, you may be asked that question. So I know a friend once told me that cockroaches terrify her, and I'm like, really? Sounds very funny, but it's a weird fact about her. So this will take some thinking to it's just a way to amuse and ease the tension, amuse your audience and ease the tension. And as I said earlier, you don't have to mention a fun fact about you except you're asked or you just feel like talking about it to ease the tension in the atmosphere and make the introduction fun. Now I've mentioned about 10 points, but these points would now be stringed together in a sentence that would make sense. Because if you look at these points, I can't just go, my name is Omobolanle Adeshi. I'm from a family of 6. I have 7 years experience in broadcasting. I work as a broadcaster. It would sound boring. So you have to string it together in a decent, simple sentence so that it's informative and also interesting to your audience. I've stringed mine together and dropped this in the comment section, and I also like you to put all of this together, string it together, and I'd love to read yours in the comment section if you choose to share, but I'd love to really have you share yours too. Thank you so much. Please do not forget to subscribe if you haven't, to watch my other videos here, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.